Groves here from Governance Studio, and we're looking today at some more fiercely practical steps to creating great board minutes and the whole cycle of meetings to minutes to meetings, etc. So we're going to today be talking about in-camera sessions. So I'm not sure if you're all familiar with that, but I'm going to explain it here in just a moment. And as always, I really like to show you what I do. I think that's more helpful than just hearing me talk about it. So I'm going to go into my DiliTrust board portal here, and I'm going to go under my meetings tab. So if you've joined us for the earlier items in this series, we're actually on number 10 of a 12-part series. And we've been looking at minutes for a board meeting that happened in May of 2022. You can see that meeting here. And those minutes are actually being approved by the board in August, right, at their next meeting. So I'm going to go in here to this August meeting, and all of these things that pop up here, the edit and delete, are because I'm an administrator, and so I can do all kinds of extra functions. But a director would just see the meeting, be able to click on it, and then they would get this lovely screen that shows them about the meeting, when it started, and the agenda is all set out in front of them, and then any attachments are also included. So really helpful, really easy to navigate. So I'm looking at these May minutes because we're going to ask the board to approve them. And we're getting really close to the end of these minutes. We've started at the very top and we've worked our way through the approval, the operations report, the financial statements, a project approval. There's some other items that were there. And then we're going to move on today to this idea of an in-camera session. So I'm going to explain what that means first, because I'm one of those people who's a bad offender of using terminology I'm familiar with, but not everybody is. In camera is actually from Latin. It basically just means in private. And so in private sessions are a best practice at every kind of board. So whether you're not for profit, whether you're a private company, it's just an opportunity for the board to have a quick discussion without management present. So I can give you an example. Maybe it's a company, and what they do is all the members of management leaves, and the board will typically talk about things like, how did that meeting go? You know, was there anything we were dissatisfied with? And also, you know, how do we think the CEO or the executive director, depending on the kind of organization, how do you think they're doing? Do they have enough support? Are we supporting them enough? Is there something we as a board should be doing differently? Is there anything that we're concerned about that we think the board chair should go back and have a chat with that CEO or executive director about? So again, it's just this in private session where they have this discussion. The reason it's a best practice is if you do this all of the time, there's no reason for anyone to freak out, like the CEO, that it's happening. If you never do these sessions and then all of a sudden the board says they want to have one, the CEO is probably sitting in their office freaking out. So just make it a standard part of your agenda to include this. And one other thing that I'll tell you before I go into the actual contents of this is that there can be different kinds of in-camera sessions, and some people call them executive sessions. If there is, for example, the CEO stays in the room for a little while, but everybody else from the management team leaves. And so they might have an executive session above this in-camera session. And they're going to have that with the CEO in the room, and they're going to say, hey, CEO, do you have what you need? How's your team? Do you need more resources? You know, anything worrying you? Those kinds of questions, and have a little discussion just with that person. And then also, the other thing I'll note about these is you want to make sure that they happen within the bounds of the meeting. So don't have the meeting terminate and then do these sessions. Do these sessions before the meeting is over. There aren't usually a lot of decisions that come out of these sessions. There might be, but usually that's relatively few. So you want to make sure that that is set up so that if there is a decision, it actually happened during the meeting proper. Okay, so now let me talk a little bit about the contents. Some organizations will decide that they're going to put a little bit of detail in here. So you can see in this one, the board discussed their views on the quality of management and the current strategic plan. Again, really high level. If you've been following along in the series, I don't want a whole lot of detail. I don't want the questions and the answers and who said what. I just want the topics of discussion. So as best you can, go through your notes. I might have had a page of notes on this, and I literally would go through and just figure out what is the really high level. But this is really almost a decision for the board as to whether or not they want to include any detail here at all. One thing I would include is if there was a request from the board here. So here it was noted that the board would like to see a regular item on future agendas for risk management updates. So that's meaning next meeting, and from there on out, we want a risk management update on every board agenda. So that's really important information. It's definitely something to include in the minutes, a big request like that. So I know that's a lot of information. There's one more thing I want to talk about. If you are the recording secretary or the secretary for the organization and you're a member of management, you may or may not be participating in this meeting. So if you're not participating, how do you know what to minute? So there's a really quick solution to that. What I want you to do is just be set up with the chair to say, listen, after this is over, I really want to just connect with you, and you let me know if there's anything to note in the minutes. And if there's nothing, you might use some wording like, following the session, the chair advised there were no matters to be included in the minutes. And that would just replace this particular section here. So that's what an in-camera session is and what you should include about it, even if you're not there, how to make sure you include what you need. So we're getting really close to the end of the minutes, and then there's one more session even after the end that we're going to talk about the wrap-up. So next session, we're going to talk about terminating the meeting. We're almost to the end. So thank you very much for joining, and I look forward to seeing you next time. In the meantime, happy minutes.